Police in unmarked cars arrive at Sandringham to take the King's brother into custody.
The King's brother lost everything.
Something has gone very wrong for Prince Andrew. He has already endured the most humiliating fall from grace of any senior royal in living memory. Stripped of his military titles, removed from royal duties, and finally forced out of Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor estate he called home, for over 2 decades. The Crown made its position clear. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is no longer welcome in the inner circle. But in early 2026, as Andrew reluctantly settled into his new, significantly smaller home, something unexpected came to light. A problem so embarrassing, so deeply humiliating, that sources say Andrew is absolutely furious and desperate to keep it out of the press. This is not just a story about a disgraced prince and a difficult move. This is about a man who once stood on the steps of Buckingham Palace and believed himself untouchable, now reduced to demanding repairs and complaining about the property he was handed by a brother who is finished accommodating him. Let's dive in. This situation is not just personal drama. It is the latest chapter in a systematic dismantling of Prince Andrew's standing within the House of Windsor. And the way it is being handled, privately, without ceremony, with no public acknowledgement of the problem, tells us everything about how King Charles views his younger brother. This is not just a housing dispute. It is about the limits of royal loyalty, the price of scandal, and what the Crown is willing to do to protect its image at the cost of one of its own.
His title's stripped, and for the first time in generations, a British prince has been banished.
Today, we are examining how Andrew ended up in this position, what exactly has gone so wrong with his new home, how he has responded, and what this episode reveals about the future of Prince Andrew within the British royal family. To understand the scale of this humiliation, it is essential to understand what Prince Andrew has lost. Prince Andrew Albert Christian Edward was born on February 19, 1960, the third child of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. For most of his adult life, he enjoyed a position of extraordinary privilege. He served in the Falklands War as a naval helicopter pilot, a role he was deeply proud of and referenced throughout his public career. He held the title His Royal Highness the Duke of York, and for many years was widely regarded as his mother's favourite son. Royal Lodge, the magnificent 30-room estate in Windsor Great Park, became his primary residence in 2003. A Grade 2 listed property with extensive grounds, tennis courts, and a private pool. It was not merely a home, it was a statement of status. For over 20 years, it was entirely his. Then came the Epstein scandal. In November 2019, Andrew sat down with BBC journalist Emily Maitlis for what royal biographer Robert Jobson described in the Daily Mail as the single most catastrophic royal interview in living memory. Andrew's claims that he had no recollection of meeting his accuser Virginia Giuffre,
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
that he could not sweat due to a medical condition, that he had spent the evening at a Pizza Express in Woking,
Going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do.
were received with widespread disbelief. The interview did not rehabilitate him. It destroyed him. The fallout was swift. Within days, Andrew stepped back from public royal duties. His military affiliations were stripped. His HRH title was suspended for public use. And in February 2022, following a civil lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre, Andrew reached an out-of-court settlement reported by sources close to the proceedings to be in the region of £12 million. King Charles, upon ascending the throne in September 2022, made his intentions immediately clear. There would be a slimmed-down monarchy, there would be no rehabilitation path for Andrew, and there would be no continued Crown funding for a 30-room estate maintained on behalf of a man who carries out 0 official royal functions. The battle over Royal Lodge became one of the longest and most uncomfortable disputes in the modern history of the royal family. Andrew refused to leave. Charles refused to fund the property's maintenance, costs running into hundreds of thousands of pounds annually. For over 2 years, the standoff continued. According to sources quoted in Hello magazine, Andrew genuinely believed his brother would eventually relent. That blood would prove thicker than institutional pressure. He was wrong. By late 2025, sources close to the situation confirmed that Andrew had finally accepted he had no viable path to remaining at Royal Lodge. According to an insider quoted in Radar Online, the decision was not made willingly. Andrew held on longer than anyone expected, but in the end, the numbers were simply impossible. He was relocated to a significantly smaller property, a move that, by any measure, represents an extraordinary downgrade for a man who once commanded 30 rooms and a dedicated maintenance staff. While there is no official royal statement about the precise property Andrew now occupies, sources familiar with the arrangement indicate it was considered suitable for his reduced standing within the family. But something no one had anticipated was waiting for him. According to a source who spoke to OK magazine, when Andrew's staff began preparing the new property for occupation, the condition of the accommodation was far worse than had been presented. The source used a striking phrase. They described the situation as, in their words, genuinely horrifying for someone of his background. Specifically, sources indicate the property had suffered severe damp and water ingress, reportedly worsening during an extended period of vacancy. An insider, speaking to Closer Weekly, described mold growth across multiple rooms, structural damp on the ground floor, and a heating system that had not been serviced in years. While there is no independent confirmation of the precise extent of the damage, multiple sources now report the issues were significant enough to require immediate remediation work, meaning Andrew could not move in as planned. His arrival was delayed. His staff were left managing a property that was, by their own accounts, uninhabitable in its current state. This is not just an inconvenience. For a man of Andrew's background, accustomed to the immaculate upkeep of Royal Lodge and the full support of palace maintenance teams, being handed a damp, deteriorating property is not merely a logistical problem. It is a statement. Whether intentional or not, the message it sent was, according to royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams speaking to the Daily Mail, unmistakable: Andrew is no longer a priority. The resources that once went to supporting his lifestyle have been redirected entirely. And Andrew, according to sources, is absolutely furious. An insider told Radar Online that Andrew's reaction upon learning the full extent of the property's condition was explosive. He reportedly contacted palace officials immediately and demanded that the issues be addressed at the Crown's expense. That request, sources say, was declined. An insider with direct knowledge of the exchange described Andrew as livid. He felt he had been set up to fail, handed something broken and told to be grateful. What followed was a period of intense behind-the-scenes negotiation. Andrew's representatives pushed for either urgent repairs funded centrally or an alternative property to be made available. According to sources familiar with the discussions, King Charles was kept informed throughout but declined to personally intervene. Sources close to the king told Hello magazine that Charles considers the housing matter fairly resolved and has no intention of revisiting it. The standoff between the two brothers has now entered a new and deeply personal phase. Those who know both men describe a fundamental asymmetry at the core of their relationship. Charles, meticulous and institutional, has consistently placed the monarchy above personal loyalty when the two come into conflict. Andrew, emotional and accustomed to special treatment, has always expected exceptions to be made for him. Royal commentator Angela Levin, writing in the Daily Mail, put it plainly: Andrew has never fully accepted that the rules have changed. He still operates as though his mother is alive and in a position to protect him. Queen Elizabeth II protected Andrew in ways that have only become fully apparent since her death. She allowed him to remain at Royal Lodge. She arranged the financial settlement quietly. She resisted calls for his HRH title to be formally removed. That protective layer is now entirely gone. Charles has shown, through every decision of the past 3 years, that he will not extend the same personal protection. The deteriorating property, the declined request for repairs, the refusal to personally intervene, these are not accidents. They are, sources suggest, a deliberate and calculated signal. Andrew must accept his new circumstances, or find another way. There is real emotional weight in this dynamic. Two brothers, raised in the same household, now navigating a relationship defined almost entirely by damage control and institutional pressure. Andrew's fury, sources say, is not simply about the damp walls and broken heating. It is about feeling abandoned by the last surviving member of his immediate family who still had the power to help him. What this moment tells us is that the process of Andrew's final separation from the institution of the monarchy is now, essentially, complete. There is no path back. There is no senior royal willing to advocate for him publicly. His daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, remain personally loyal, but neither has taken any public position on the housing dispute, a choice that itself speaks volumes about the impossible position they occupy. The question of what Andrew's life looks like in the coming years remains unresolved. Sources suggest he is exploring private options, potentially a property outside the royal estates entirely. The financial implications of such a move, given the settlement costs of recent years, would be considerable. What is clear is this: the man who once flew helicopters over the Falklands and dined with heads of state has been reduced to arguing over damp walls and repair bills. And the institution he served for most of his adult life has answered his demands with silence.